But he'd caught her when she was violently ill, and he'd studied her face with those dark, shrewd eyes. And he'd known. He'd not only been pleased, but had forbidden her to end the pregnancy. To her shock, he'd bought her a sapphire bracelet to celebrate her situation. She hadn't wanted the child, but he had. So she began to see how the child could work for her. As the mother of Reginald Harper's child, bastard or no, she would be cared for in perpetuity. He might lose interest in coming to her bed as she lost the bloom of youth, as beauty faded, but he would support her and the child. His wife hadn't given him a son, but she might. She would. Through the last chills of winter and into the spring, she carried the child and planned for her future. Then something strange happened. It moved inside her. Flutters and stretches, playful kicks. The child she hadn't wanted became her child. It grew inside her like a flower that only she could see, could feel, could know. And so did a strong and terrible love. Through the sweltering, sticky heat of the summer, she bloomed, and for the first time in her life she knew a passion for something other than herself and her own comfort. The child, her son, needed her. She would protect it with all she had. With her hands resting on her great belly, she supervised the decorating of the nursery. Pale green walls and white lace curtains, a rocking horse imported from Paris, a crib handmade in Italy. She tucked tiny clothes into the miniature wardrobe, Irish and Breton lace, French silks. All were monogrammed with exquisite embroidery with the baby's initials. He would be James Reginald Connor. She would have a son, something at last of her own, someone at last to love. They would travel together, her and her beautiful boy. She would show him the world. He would go to the best schools. He was her pride, her joy, and her heart. And if, through that steamy summer, Reginald came to the house on South Main less and less, it was just as well. He was only a man. What grew inside her was a son. She would never be alone again. When she felt the pangs of labor, she had no fear. Through the sweaty hours of pain, she held one thing in the front of her mind. Her James, her son, her child. Her eyes blurred with exhaustion, and the heat, a living, breathing monster, was somehow worse than the pain. She could see the doctor and the midwife exchange looks, grim, frowning looks. But she was young, she was healthy, and she would do this thing. There was no time. Hour bled into hour with gaslight shooting flickering shadows around the room. She heard, through the waves of exhaustion, a thin cry. "My son." Tears slid down her cheeks. "My son." The midwife held her down, murmuring. "Lie still now. Drink a bit. Rest now." She sipped to soothe her fiery throat, tasted laudanum. Before she could object, she was drifting off, deep down, far away. When she woke, the room was dim, the draperies pulled tight over the windows. When she stirred, the doctor rose from his chair, came close to lift her hand, to check her pulse. "My son, my baby. I want to see my baby." "I'll send for some broth. You slept a long time." "My son, he'll be hungry. Have him brought to me."
"Madam."
The doctor sat on the side of the bed. His eyes seemed very pale, very troubled.
"I'm sorry. The child was stillborn."
What clutched her heart was monstrous, vicious, rending her with burning talons of grief and fear. "I heard him cry. This is a lie. Why are you saying such an awful thing to me?"
"She never cried."
Gently he took her hands.
"Your labor was long and difficult. You were delirious at the end of it. Madam, I'm sorry. You delivered a girl, stillborn."